Welcome, one and all, back to Jurgen's Dungeon. We are going to be doing a quick little power ranking of all the LCS and LEC teams right before lock-ins for LCS starts and LEC tournament begins. Now, I want to preface this video by saying that all of these guesses as to the placements will be at the end of summer for the full year. I know that's kind of weird but you know, summer teams tend to play a little bit more hardcore. We get to see their real forms as they get into that push for Worlds. And during spring, I don't think you can see it as much. So this ranking is going to be how I think they will finish at the end of summer going into Worlds. So with this first clip, we're going to start out with LCS. Sorry for the scuff production once again, but I'm just going to go through I'm going to go from bottom to the top from 10 to 1. I think that's the best way to do it. Number 10, Dignitas. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I just think this team is just absolute dog shit top to bottom. Like, the only positive you have in this entire lineup is River, who, once again, the import from PSG. But, like, what are you going to do when your solo laners are blue and fake god? So, Dignitas at 10. CLG, I don't want to talk about them too much. Just a team of rookies. I don't think they're going to do that well, but I think that's what CLG kind of planned and kind of wanted to rebrand themselves as. So, we'll give them... I know I'm a resident CLG hater, but I'll give them a pass for this one. 8th, I have FlyQuest. I think it is going to be very interesting to see the new mid laner coming in. I think Johnson is a great ADC paired with Aphromoo. Jose Diodo, he didn't play up to expectations, I would say, if there even was super high expectations, but I feel like he'll play decent enough, but I don't think they're nearly good enough to start breaking into this middle to top part of the tier. 7th, I have Golden Guardians, and honestly, now that I look, I could see this going either way. I could see GG being at 8th and FlyQuest at 7th. These two are pretty interchangeable, but I think Licorice, once again, he's a hell of a top laner. I think he can always hold his own. Pride Stalker, this is one LCS player I'm very, very excited to see. A Blaze Olive, I think he's fine. I don't think he, had the best environments when he was playing, so it's going to be interesting to see once he gets over that little freshman-sophomore slump to see how he does. Lost is fine. I think it was fine with TSM last year. Ole, I'm so excited to see Ole back in the LCS. It's going to be interesting to see how well he does. But moving on, 6th, I have Team Speaks Mandarin, TSM. Once again, I'm a resident TSM hater, so don't flame me too hard, but they always seem to do even fine. They never seem to do garbage as a team, so I guess I'm just kind of placing them based off of that. Huni, fine top laner. He's just, coin flip, but when that coin flip lands heads, he does pretty well. I think Spica, obviously great jungler, but the real thing's going to be Kaiduo and Shenyi. I'm really not sure how they're doing coming out of the LPL's Development League, so it'll be interesting to see. 5th is Immortals. I think this team is getting slept on a little bit too much. I think this team is pretty good. Especially, Revenge is fine. He's a good top laner. He always manages to somewhat hold his own. Xerxes, obviously, far from the form he was in back in ye old days of Unicorns of Love, but I still think he's a fine jungler that can enable his lanes when they need to. Power Vivo and Wild Turtle, I love this combo. Seeing these two back together, I think is going to do great things for them. And Destiny, he's not one of the best, but once again, I think he'll be able to supplement Wild Turtle enough in this roster to keep them kind of on a steady track. 4th, I have EG, and 3rd, I have Cloud9. This is one of those to where if Cloud9 goes level 9 DEFCON fucked, everything goes to hell, I could see these interchanging and Cloud9 dropping to 4th and EG up to 3rd. But for EG, obviously, everyone's talking about Jojo Pune. I think this kid is going to be... I haven't watched too many VODs of him, but from what people are saying and what I've seen, this kid looks like an absolute fucking freak. And I am going to be excited to see him pop off in LCS. Danny, obviously great ADC. I'm so happy they kept him. Vulcan, great support. They got Inspired and Impact. This team looks so good on paper. But once again, 3rd place going to Cloud9. This might seem high, but maybe I'm just too far deep in the Church of LS, but I think this team is going to be pretty good. I think Cloud9 found their player in Fudge. I think he's the kind of player that you want to build a team around. You want to be the centerpiece because he has such an ecstatic personality. He's such a good player. He seems like he mends well with all his teammates. I think he's just the perfect piece to build around. Keeping Blabber, obviously, we're talking about coin flip players. Blabber always comes into the conversation, but I think he'll be fine. I think he'll enable this roster. Berserker, Winsome, Isles, Summit, I think they'll all be pretty good and they'll hold his own. I think... Again, this could be another case of I'm just way too high on LS Copium, but I think that these pickups are good for what they're trying to build around Cloud9. And I'm actually really excited. I think their result by the end of the season, whether they stay where I want or they drop a lot lower or a lot higher, I think they're the team I'm most excited to see what happens with them. Second place, we have 100 Thieves. A lot of people are sleeping on 100 Thieves, which seems kind of weird because Cloud9, the LS Opium, and then TL bringing back that super roster. But you have to remember, 100 Thieves is running back the exact same roster, and they won LCS in summer. So I think it's just disrespectful to sleep on them and put them down in 4th or 5th. So Someday Tenacity. I'm excited to see how Tenacity goes paired with Someday. I'm not sure if they're going to run the full 6-man roster or they're going to primarily use Sunday and just Tenacity when they need to. Closer, obviously, hell of a jungle. Abadage, easily one of the LCS's best pickups from LEC in a long time. I think he just played out of his fucking mind. FBI and Hui are coming on their own as some of the best duo laners in the league. I'm excited for this 100 Thieves. And then, dude, come on, guys. You know, I can't not put Team Liquid first if you look at this roster on paper. I mean, Bwipo, Santorin, Bjergsen, Hansama, Core JJ. I think all of these guys are easily going to be top 3 in their role throughout the entire year. And I think they're just going to hard smurf it. And if I had to put any amount of money on an LCS champion ending out summer, I think I'd have to put it on TL. So there's my LCS list right there. Don't take it too personally. I know nothing about this game. I'm a social media manager. Leave me alone. And then we're going to jump right over into the LEC. 10th place, Astralis. I've been liking their content game on Twitter or YouTube. If you follow them, they've been putting out some pretty funny content. But besides that point, I think this roster is absolute fucking dog shit. I think Dignitas from NA would beat this roster. I swear to God. White Knight, Zenzara, Dayor, Kabe, Promise Q. I don't know what they're thinking. 9th, BDS. I think Adam was a good player for Fnatic last year, but his ceiling is really high, but his lows are super low. And I don't think he's that reliable player that you want to build around. Obviously, if you look at this Clinkcroft, X Matty, you're getting the whole BDS crew in here. Or not the whole BDS crew, I'm sorry, the whole Carmine Corp group. So I'm excited, but I really won't have my hopes too high. Coming up next, we have SK. They're fine. I think Treats is the glue that holds this team together, but like, I don't know. What can you do with a team like this? I'm not really sure. It's going to be exciting to see Gilius back, to see if he can get back to form. But other than that, they're a team. Honestly, most of the times I forget they're in the LEC. 7th XL. I know. Haha, funny. The meme. Holy shit, they're 7th. But like, I don't think they're good enough to be near Misfits or Rogue level. But Finn, Marcoon, Nukeduck, Patrick, Ed Vienne. I think Patrick has always been a top 4 ADC and LEC. I think Nukeduck was super good way back in the day, and then he's kind of had a few int splits here and there. But he's just a solid player that no matter what, he'll play at least decent. So I think Nukeduck's fine here. Marcoon is a crazy jungler. I'm going to be excited to see how much he can enable these solo laners. And then coming back to Finn. And Finn seems kind of weird because I don't think he's that bad. But the issue was, I don't want to count last year because he was stuck in a mental asylum called CLG. I think if you play for that team, you should get free therapy for life for what you have to go through. So we're just going to write that year off. But even the year before that, Rogue was not. He was kind of the weakest link in Rogue. So it's going to be excited to see whether Finn continues to trend down or he manages to, flip the switch and start going back up. 6th, I have Misfits. And Misfits is one of those dark horse teams. I could see them getting as high as 4th or 3rd. Like, it's just like Misfits last year. I think with Schlatan especially slotting in here with Vethio and Herit, I think obviously it's tough for them because they lost Razork, and Razork was such a great player. But I think Schlatan is a good replacement. Herit's a fine solo laner. Vethio, obviously insane. I think Neon's, if you're looking at how aggressive Herit and Vethio are and how much they like to take over games, Neon's like the perfect ADC. He doesn't take too much resources. He kind of minds his own business. Mursa, I think this is a pretty decent bottom lane, and I could see them placing a bit higher than I put them. 5th, I have Rogue, Odoamne, Malrang, Larsen, Comp, Trimby. Obviously, Odo and Larsen I really like. The biggest thing with Rogue is we need to see if Rogue time from last year will continue on to this year. I have no idea if it will, but I really like Malrang. I think he's a good pickup. Comp, I wasn't, especially with the ADC pool that was left out all around LEC. Comp always seemed like a weird sign to me, but I think he'll be the weakest link, but I still think he'll do fine enough to solidify them as a middle-of-the-pack team. 4th, I have Mad. Obviously, the big thing is they lost their ADC to Vitality and their mid laner to Fnatic. But you still have Armut and Loyoya and Kaiser sitting back there. Kaiser, who has always consistently been top 3 in the LEC. Loyoya, who's just played out of his mind in pretty much every situation LEC last year. And Armut, who was always able, at worst, Armut was still a top 5 top laner. So I think even with the insertion of Reeker and Unforgiven, which I really don't know too much about either of these, I think just the raw talent and experience around their top jungle and support is enough to get them up there in the top 4. Third, I have G2. Obviously, this one's kind of a tough one for me. I think G2 will finish 3rd, but I could see a situation where it's just a complete collapse like last year and they don't make Worlds again. Obviously, Jankos and Caps are sitting there. They're rocking the jungle mid duo. They looked not that great last year, but once again, not that great is still decent. I'm just saying not that great in comparison to what they normally show. So a lot of it's going to be on whether they can get back to form. Broken Blade, great top laner. I think out of all the top lane pool that you had in LEC, he was probably the best pickup. Flocked and Targamas, I'm very interested to see how both of these do. And once again, LEC rookies I really don't have too much of an idea on. I don't know too much about them. Second, I have Fnatic. I think you all seen this coming. Wonder, Razor, Humanoid, Upset Hill saying, I think this roster is just fucking insane. And obviously you can see my list. I think Vitality gets first, but I could realistically see a situation where Fnatic takes the throne from Vitality. I mean, if you're looking at their roster, Wonder, Razor, Humanoid, Upset Hill saying, like, the best 2v2 bot lane in Europe, bar none. I don't think anyone's even remotely close. Humanoid, the rock around the Mad Lions team last year, who led them to 2 trophies. I think he's a great player. Wonder he didn't play that great last year, but you have to remember, Wonder has a trait in him that not many other players in the world have. I can't remember. It might have been Yamato that said this, Yamato Cannon, the coach for Fnatic, but I can't remember. They said he is one of the best players in the world because he is meta-proof. Like, in 2019, we saw him play Sona, Soraka, Pyke, Ivern, Bruisers. Like, he can play anything and he'll do fine on it. And especially when you're looking at bot lane as aggressive as Upset Hilly and Humanoid and Razork, I think just having Wonder as someone as a rock who can literally play anything is like the best thing they could have picked up. So I'm very excited for this Fnatic roster. Obviously, number 1, it's the same thing as TL with NA. Look at this fucking roster. How are you going to bet against that? Alfari coming back. He'll finally have a decent team in EU. He had a decent team in NA, but NA is NA. So, finally has a decent team in EU. We have self-made, literal... Go jungler right now. I'm looking at this jungle pool, and I think he's the best one here. Perks, obviously, Return of the King. I'm going to be so excited. Even though he might have a little bit of the coming back from NA debuff that a few LEC players tend to suffer from, I still think Perks at his lows is still, like, top 2 mid laner in the LEC. He's just insane. And then especially if you get a player like Karzi and Labrov. Labrov is a player that has been so good, and he's kind of like Alfari. He's just never had that great team to play around him. So seeing him paired with someone like Karzi, I think is ideal. And yeah, I think... Ugh. On paper, I want to say Vitality, but once again, like I said earlier, I could see Fnatic or Vitality going either way with this. So yeah, here's my little tier list of all the teams. I'm excited to see how the season plays out, and especially considering last year at the World Tournament, I don't really want to call it a degradation from the West or the East of competitive play like the LCK and LPL, but every team, especially in the finals, every team looks beatable. So I think if you're a fan of Western League of Legends, I think this is a year to be super hype. I think some of the highs and the LCS team and LEC teams look insane, and I could realistically see one team from both of these regions making semifinals. Like, I think with TL's experience, this has to be the year that an NA team makes a really solid run. Maybe makes it to the semifinals, makes it a 4 or 5 game series in the semifinals. If this is NA's year, look at this roster. I mean, this has got to be it, right? Whippo, Santorn, Bjergsen, Hansa, McCoy, JJ, that has to be it. And LEC Vitality, I know it's kind of weird to talk about European super teams, especially just coming off the disaster that was 2021 G2, but it's like with super teams, yeah, we saw it fail the last time, but like, the same thing as TL, like, how can you bet against this roster? So I'm going to be excited to see how the West goes in LEC, and I am going to be happy when I come back in a few months and all these predictions are 100% right, because I am the best analyst on the planet. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to start pumping out more content on this YouTube channel, and stick around.